All right, this is Jeff, the Big Hairy Dog. This is a webinar on Crunch. Certainly, I encourage questions and answers or chat comments or whatever. So if you have any questions, please do not be shy. Feel free to hop in and throw it out there. All right, so this is Crunch. Crunch is the reporting piece for Prism. Typically, we would have a shortcut like that one right there on our desktop that would bring us into the browser environment and would make us log in. So to get to our main menu. It's, like I said, the sister companion application to Prism. And the difference really, and this is probably going to get upset at me, but let's see here. Yeah, session is no longer valid. Fair enough. But you see right here, the local VM's name, whatever, the local host. But the port is 8080 here, and the port over here is 8090. So you could use this login here. You could use this here, copy that, and pop in here and go like that, and just change this to a 9. And it should take us to the Crunch main menu, right? So it's the same machine, which resolves by machine name, by IP address, or if you're on that machine, you could use a local host like we are here. So anyway, okay. I have a dashboard, so mine opens to the dashboard. So if you don't have a dashboard set up, it will open to reports like this section here. And we're going to get back to dashboard here in a bit anyway. When you open up Crunch, there are native groups that are already added. I have my groups are kind of a mess. I apologize for that. I have a lot of groups because I do a lot of work for a lot of people who need special groups. But you can make your own groups. There are groups like already in there. That's a Retail Pro group. Sales is a Retail Pro group. So you could find a report by going to a group and looking through what's in the group. You could, if you create your own reports and you have your own user there, you can search by that, right? So over here, this filter here is wide open. So you can pretty much type in there whatever you want. So if you're looking for on hand, you could just type in on hand. And if that existed, and apparently it doesn't, let's try OH here. We're still getting, oh no, wait a second. Be careful of this one. I just did the classic error, right? And hopefully everybody watching this downstream would see what I've done. I've pitted two filters against each other. So I said sales only for on hand. Okay, that's going to fail, right? So yeah, I did that on purpose too, right? Yeah, sure I did. All right, so OH does exist in all these reports. And if I come back and say on hand, I'm guessing it also exists in quite a few reports. So you can filter for a word or a key phrase or something that you maybe have put into your name of your report and find it very quickly that way. All right, so let's start knocking things off, right? So I've got a little list here I put together. Navigation and searching I added on top there, but because I feel like you have to kind of introduce it. But then let's start running. So the first thing let's talk about is running with a filter versus immediate run, right? So if we highlight any report, and that's a Retail Pro default report, we've got two buttons here, run and filter, and run immediate, right here, right, immediate run. And you can certainly use them, but now if you click immediate run and it's a sales report and you don't specify a date range, it will run forever, right? So I think anytime we're talking about inventory, you can always do immediate run. Unless you got a really large inventory, it's going to work, right? So that's an on-hand report. We can certainly just click that and it would run. All right, that's taking a little longer than I wanted to. Now, once it runs, I could go back and click the gear, and I could, in fact, filter it further down if I want to, right? All right, yeah. So if something's taking it too long and you want to break out of it, um, the reset or the Control Shift R typically will do that for you, right? So now if I was to use the other one, well, let's see if this runs. Okay, so this is a modified version, right, of an on-hand report. This is not showing items. This is showing stores and departments, right? Um, so this each store here then breaks and starts the next store, right? So now I could run this report here since this is the code's a little cleaner, it's a little faster. So maybe it's a better example for this demonstration. If I click this, I could then open the filter at runtime, right? And I could add a filter to say store code, and grab a store and add that to my runtime, right? It's got to be in the yellow or it's not there, right? And then I could run that, and that's only going to have now one store. You follow? Like it stops right there. That's it. That's the whole report. Now, once I've run this, I can open this up and I could refilter or remove that filter, add a new filter. Certainly not a problem. Um, and now I've got all stores again. Now, I could have just as easily, right, just done this, right? Right. So different options for filtering here, which is going to come up in our list here in a minute anyway. Um, so run with filter if it's got a predefined filter, then you could run immediate. If it's an inventory, you could run immediate. If it's a sales or history report and it doesn't have a predefined filter, and what's a predefined filter, Jeff? A predefined filter is anything that's got a little funnel next to it, right? So it's got a predefined date range on it, probably. Then you can just run it like that, right? And then you can see your report. Boom, right? So okay, moving on here. And any questions, any chats? Nothing yet. Perfect. So, all right, adding groupings. So let's get to a report that's got like some detail in it, right? So let's go to like just an basic inventory report, and we'll get something that's got items right here, right? And let's say we want to play with the groupings. So I'm gonna run that one and see if that one comes up and gives me a report. It does. Nice. And my quantities are whacked. I should have probably cleaned that up. Maybe we'll clean that up as a training exercise in a second here. I'd like to see these. Um, Interesting. All right, so right here, let's see if I can show you what's going on here. Wow, this is a lot, right? All right, so this report here is by store, right, and by department. See that break right there? So um, how do we add or remove those if we want to, right? So if we go back to our little gear here, right below our filters is the groupings, right? So I dropped these two things. If I drop all three of these, it'll just mix everything together, right? Now there's no subtotals in this thing at all. It's just on and on and on forever, right? And if I sort this now, it sorts all items together. You see what I mean? So but you could put them back just that fast, right? You can say, I want to group it by store, and then I want to group it by the master department. Maybe that's all. Maybe I want to go down further, but maybe I just want to stop there. Okay. And that's a classic mistake, by the way, is adding the things and not clicking the plus sign. So easy to do. The green button calls out your name, right? So grouping's pretty easy. Um, Charts, there are charts. And so let's see what's going on in charts. This thing has some charts already on it, right? So how did they get there, right? Um, and let's, yeah, I guess as good as any. So if we click edit here at the top, now, not all reports are going to show edit. I'll kind of get more into that in a bit, but and I don't see any questions yet, so I'm just trying to keep up on it in case there are. So you're clicking in to edit here and scrolling down below the building portions, you see setup charts, and there's the charts I've set up so far, right? So we've got on hand by store in a bar chart and a pie chart, and on hand by department in the same thing. So if we wanted to add another one, we would just click the plus sign here, and we would just say what we want to do, right? So I want a bar chart, and I want it to be at the DCS level, and I want it to measure extended cost. And then click OK. We got a fifth chart there, right? And we could go back and do the same thing. We could say, make this one a pie and do it on the DCS and give me the extended cost and add that. And then scroll down to the bottom where we have the save button, save that. Successfully saved. Pop back up a layer. We lost our group. That's fun. That was the item version of the on hand with the department, right? So if we go back and rerun that, we should have yet another set of charts, right? If we click into charts, then what do we got here? Yeah, there we go. Right. Yeah. Their department code structure is pretty simple. So the master department one and the DCS one actually look the same because that's how they built their departments in this particular data set. But that's it's as easy as that to build a chart, right? Okay, so the pivot table, right? Hours of endless enjoyment there. So far we've kind of looked at the chart tab and the data tab, but between them there's this summary tab. And when we click in here, there's really not much going on. And I was a bit lost when I first started playing with Crunch. If you see a gear, click the gear, pretty much. Anywhere you see a gear in Crunch, if you see it, click it, right? So I'm gonna click our gear here, it opens up, and now I could, I probably should be smart here, and let's go back to the data, and let's narrow this, let's narrow this thing down. Let's say, all right, let's try that, and let's try, I don't even know if this is gonna work here. But let's give it a shot, right? All right, so now I've got a nice tight data set here. We're going to go into summaries. We're going to open our pivot table. Now here, this is just like an Excel pivot table, right? So you can specify what you want in the left side of the pivot, what you want in the columns, and what the value in the columns will be, right? Then you can say apply, and it'll go try and build that for you. Now, if you put too much data in this, it will choke and die. So that's why I tried to narrow it down and filter it down to something that was pretty small and could be achievable here. Although the size in the size field aren't terribly good. They're not great. So, but I mean, this is pretty slick. I mean, you can take a report that is meant for one purpose and do the other things with it. If this doesn't resolve pretty quick, we're going to probably play with that. Yeah, all right, fair enough. So I'm going to do my Control Shift and R. That should reset. Should reset. Yeah, exit page. Thank you. Reload. Thanks. Good. All right. Let's see here. Let's try. Probably going to hurt myself again here, aren't I? All right, so we're going to go over here and we're going to try and do something like, I'm going to try and say buy store code here. Let's just put quantity over here and let's see what it does there. Now, I clearly have way too much data in here, but it worked. So that's a really simple query, right? I mean, it's just, but you see what I mean? I took an item report and turned it into a department, a store report for on hand. Now we could have added other things, right? We could have said, oh yeah, we want to see extended cost and we want to see extended price here, right? Now I have reports that do this already, so I don't necessarily need to do that here, if you see what I mean. But yeah, you can do things like that. This pivot is pretty slick. It's not the be all end all. I think that in reporting, you can get a lot of stuff done in reporting without the pivot, but there are times when this pivot just is really has a great presentation and is pretty cool. It does a good job, right? And if you export, you can export this out, by the way. So, and that happens to be the next topic. So interesting. So let's go to on the top here. Let's click our export button. You got 3 different ways you can export: CSV, comma separated value, so right, which is basically a text file, XLSX, and PDF. The PDF, of course, goes crazy here. It gives us all kinds of options, but we'll try to go landscape and see what happens here, right? And say okay. And still going, nice. Right, so they're finally finished, right? So we're gonna open the folder it's in and then double click this PDF to see what it looks like. Interesting. So it dumped the whole report. Oh, and that's my pivot right there. Right there's my stores and my 3 columns. So that's my pivot on top, and then it actually dumped the entire report into. So that's why it took so long. There's a 1,194 page, right? So I don't know how many pages there are in here, but there's quite a few. So oh, nice, and it ends with the charts. That's like a bonus. Yeah, it's 775, 1775. Wow, did we get to 1776? I mean, we are the 250th year here. We did not. I don't think so. All right. Well, apparently we did, right? We get 1778. All right. So now in this export, the PDF thing actually worked because the pivot sort of intervened. Well, actually, it didn't. So like, if we pull into this, I'm going to zoom in on this and just, they're working on this right now. But the first column here, the store in this case, that's not a big column, but the width of that's being controlled by this filter area here. So since I didn't have anything in my filter, it didn't insert anything past the pipe there. But just know that had I filtered for a department or a vendor or a date range or something, that it would have moved these things over to the right, and that first column would have been very wide. But that's an issue that there's a known issue. It's been logged, and then they're working on it. So I suspect it will get resolved in a reasonable period of time. But it's a little awkward right now in PDF land. Uh, Excel works beautiful. CSV works beautiful. No problems with those at all. All right, so let's go back to Crunch here. We're good on that. Exporting, emailing, yeah. To email, if you have a report up, you just would click the email, right? And then you'd say who you're emailing it to and how you want it to go, whether it's Excel or PDF. It's that simple, right? Emailing is, now you have to have your email config in. We will look at the email config towards the end. So, okay. How do we copy a report? So if we go back to reports, if I liked this report, I could just click the duplicate button here at the top, right? And I could give it a new name, and I just copied it, right? Now there's other ways to do that, though. There's, I think, a more elegant way to copy a report. So let's say I want a version of this report that is filtered for only store one or something, right? So I could say, okay, I'm going to run this with a filter. I am going to open my filter. I'm going to put my store in. And while we're at it here, we've been popping back and forth in filter land, but what's the difference between the top filter line and the bottom one? It does say use predefined filters or create a new one, right? So this one here is not predefined. It's from the hip. You're just shooting wild, right? So if we said, and let's get into a report that has a date range. Let's get into something that's got some sales in it, right? Um, so if we run this and we open this up and say, give me my date filter. Do I have a date filter? This one does not have a date filter. Interesting. There was a few from Retail Pro that got created, and I think I copied one of those that didn't have a date range in them. That is a thing. Um, it's pretty easy to fix, actually. All right, so there's your basic date filter, right? Now, when I select date filter on the top, I get calendars, and I could just shoot from the hip, right? If I select the date filter on the bottom, these are saved or dynamic filters, right? So I could make this run for today or yesterday or for, I could save it that way to schedule it and run it, right? That's what we're talking about, right? So let's go back to what we were trying to do a minute ago and stop going too far down the rabbit hole. So we were looking at how to copy a report, right? So I could, as I said before, run this, and I could, in this case here, I want to grab the store, and I do want to just grab the store by store code. So I want to just go like that and insert that in there. That's called indexing, by the way, and I can show you that too. So I just grabbed a store, and I could grab other fields. I could grab like a department code or something if I wanted to go grab a department code, right? But I'm just going to leave it at store and hit run. And now that one is limited to store, only this one store. Now I could take this here. It's tricky to highlight, by the way. Copy it, click this save button, paste the name in there, get rid of the leading text. You can't use special characters in there, and you don't want that on there anyway. Then here I could just add onto the end, store one, decide what group I want it in, or create my own group, by the way. You could type in a new group here. and click OK. I just created a new report. I copied a report by running it and saving or modeling off the report at runtime, right? Very useful, very powerful trick. Highly recommend that. That's the way I kind of prefer. You could duplicate the report, then you got to crack it open and go into edit mode and start building it, right? But if it's the report you're looking for is in fact very similar to one that exists, you just need some special filtering, then you can do that little trick there. Um, right. So notice that when we look at the report, we are in what's called workspace. So if you're browsing around and you're like, oh, I really wanted that report, it's still in your workspace. Until you run another report, it's still sitting there. And everything we exported is in the outputs. So if typically these go to the download folder, by the way. So if we go look at downloads, we would see those PDFs as they get exported. But if you clear, and I don't think I need any of this, so let's just go ahead and do that. Let's say select all, delete, right? So there's nothing in my downloads. Oh, I really would like a copy of this one I just ran, so I could drop another one in there. See, by going to outputs and just clicking on it, it drops another one into your download area, which is good, cool, right? All right, dashboard. So a minute ago, we created some charts, right? Now here I have, and my charts aren't looking very good. They were looking great a little while ago. Yeah, all right, fair enough. Nice. All right, so um, in my workspace, here's my outputs, right? So if I wanted to add these bottom two to that chart, that dashboard, which seems to be failing, of course, because we're recording a webinar, you do it here by clicking the button in the top right corner, right? So I could add this now. What do we got here? We got, yeah, I don't know that it matters. All right, so let's just go back to outputs and let's say that we want this one here to go in dashboard slot 3 at the top row for on the right hand side. Okay. And let's say we want this one to go into slot 6, which should fill in that first page. And so we go back to dashboard here. Now they're all working like it's crazy, but all right, right? So you can position them where you want. You can go crazy with charts. You got 4 pages here, right? So you can go kind of wild here with that, but charts are tricky. You really want to do charts that are extremely meaningful. Like this is all about on hand here, but it's nice to see a bar chart of by store, how they land for on hand, and a penetration, essentially a pie chart of which stores got the biggest slice of the pie, right? That's pretty meaningful. If you did the same thing for sales, like right underneath it, that would be really cool to see the sales and the on hand compared in 2 different charts. That's very nice, very tasteful. Um, but you can build a chart. There's all kinds of charts you can build in there. I find the bar charts and the pie charts maybe the most meaningful for me, at least. Um, all right, so right, so how do we schedule a report to be emailed? So if we had a report, we wanted to see it like on my phone every morning or something, right? Um, we could take any of those reports um, and click on it and say schedule it right here, and then we just go fill in how we want it to do. I want it to go daily. I want it to go every 15 minutes. I would not probably email someone every 15 minutes. That's on the edge of spamming someone. But yeah, you could say do it daily every morning at, whatever time you want to go, right? Or you could say more likely weekly or monthly and start this on the first day of next month, right? And then the email thing is a little awkward. So it says right there in the email ID, like who you're going to email this to, right? But there's actually 3 fields there. And let's see if they're nice to me. Let's see if they pop in when I click in there, or if they make me work for it. Probably going to make me work for it, but so I'm going to click in here and put an email, Jeff at okay, that looks close enough to be real, to be an email, right? Oh yeah, and then if I hit the tab key, it expands the box and actually get my subject line and my message, right? So we could say, morning report or monthly report or end of month report or whatever we want to do. And the title and in the message we could say like see attached, right? And at the bottom, we've still got the same options. Are we sending it out CSV? Are we sending it out XLSX? Or are we going to go PDF? So then you just click save, the save button right here, and you have a scheduled report running. That's it. Pretty dang slick. Okay. All right. So report creation modes. There are 3 report creation modes. Now, there's a different icon for each type of mode, and you see all these are the screwdriver and the wrench. These are all made in expert mode. Okay, so let's toy with building something in simple mode. Simple mode is very cool and very good for the end user. I think it pretty much limits itself to item-based reporting, um, but there's a lot of item-based reporting that you can do. That's pretty cool, right? So let's try to do something very simple. Let's make a basic sales report. So up the top left corner, there's a little plus sign where it says create. So let's click create. Let's say we want simple mode and okay. And then in simple mode, you get to kind of hop between categories. Here's your categories: inventory, sales, voucher, transfer, and adjustment. So I'm going to start in inventory, and I'm going to then open this second box and select my outputs, right? So I would like ALU. So we're going to find that field, and we're going to give it a nickname, an alias of ALU. We're going to add that. And I would like description 1, right? And I'm going to give that an alias of description 1. And we get description 2 too. All right, so I think I have enough of the descriptive. Now I'm going to flip my category over to sales. And in sales, I am going to ask for quantity. And I see here, document sold quantity. And I'm just going to call that quantity and add that. And I'd like to know the price it's sold for. We could do cost, but I'm just going to stick with price for now. So I'm going to take the item price and call that price. And now I'd like to say, like, if we sold 5 of these at, $50, I would like to see the 250, the extension of those, right? So extended price is kind of what I'd like. But there is no such field. There's no extended price. So to get that, we would need to take the quantity sold, right? This field here, and click into that field and type a little asterisk for multiplication. Pressing enter, it absorbs that. And then searching for price and finding the item price, it absorbs that. So quantity times price is extended price, right? And that's taken way too long to run. Right, so now it made some mistakes in interpreting the data. Usually does, by the way. Maybe not usually. About 20% of the time it makes mistakes. So you see here the quantity column is being interpreted as decimal and the extended price is being interpreted as an integer. So up here, there's an image setting here. There's a field setting. The field setting is very powerful, very good. So in here, we can go in and say, look, this is not a decimal. This is an integer. And this one is not an integer, it's a decimal, right? Yeah, that's much better, right? So 3, right? 3 times and 397 is 1191, right? And of course, we could continue and we could put some conditions on it or name it, save it. But I think you get the idea of simple mode, right? Simple mode's it's pretty cool, it's pretty slick. And if we go back up a layer and go into advanced, advanced is very powerful, but you really have to kind of know what you're doing here. In advanced mode, you have direct access to the tables. So if I wanted to build an inventory, like a sales report, and print the descriptions, I would need to pull from well, it depends on whether I want the receipt number too, but if I want the receipt number, that would be the document table. So there's your receipt, right? So I should be able to find in here the receipt number, which I think is called doc number. There's your doc number, and then we could call it what we want, right? And of course, the customers would be in here. If we wanted customers, they would be there. Now, if I want item information, I would have to switch from the document table to the document item table, right? And then I would be able to see, uh, attribute size, description 1, 2, you know what I mean? I'd be able to see, um, and of course, in the item table, I could also see how many I sold, right? I could find quantity in here and price that it sold at, right? Anyway, then you'd have to join these two tables. And the conditions, we would have to be able to say document item SID, document item SID equals, or actually that would be the document. The receipt has a SID, and in the document item table, there's a receipt or document level SID. You'd have to connect those two so that the right receipt number gets with the right items, right? But again, I'm reluctant to go too much deeper into this because you really have to know the table structure and how things join and all that to use this mode. So it's I'm on the edge of how useful that is for the average retailer out there and the end user. Um, and if you know how the tables join, then I'm going to have to say, why don't you just use expert mode and just write the SQL, right? So in full on expert mode, you get a box and you get to type into the box whatever you want to type. So if I said select everything asterisk from RPS is the database dot document, and I then hit the little run button down here, it'll just go query the document table and show me every receipt in the document table. Now, the raw table is not outstandingly pretty, as you can see down here, right? But there's your SID, right? It's being interpreted poorly. This is a great example of it not. It's being interpreted as a number, and it's not. It's a descriptive component. It describes or identifies the transaction, right? So that if you were classifying that, it would be text, right? Controller SID would also be text. anything that describes what you're reporting on is text. And that looks much better. That presents better. Now, I don't want to waste much more time with that particular situation, but let's see if I can pull up a better example of that kind of mistake. And we write a lot of custom reports, and so if you have a report you're ever looking for, I would say, oh, let's play with this one, I guess. Okay, so well, is this a really good one though? No. Never have what you want when you want it, right? The work, I think. Select all, copy. So if I drop in here and just drop a query in here, and hit go. Thanks for your patience on that one. All right, so if I open this up now, so first off, notice that the company subsidiary SBS number is right justified, as is store. Okay, now if I wanted to group by store number, store pound sign, and I opened up the group by and I said, hey, I want to group by store number, I don't see store number in there. So you cannot group by values, but store number is not a value. It's a number, that's true, but it's actually describing the location, correct? So what's happening here is that this is interpreting these as results or values, when in fact they're descriptive and they should be considered text, right? If it's not a text field, if it's not describing, it has to be set as a text if you want to group by it. And it makes similar mistakes. I don't see if it's making any. In this one, it's actually doing a pretty good job, except for those first two. It's describing them correctly. So I'm going to click OK. So now that I switched it, I could now group by that. So I open that back up now, and now store number is right there. And I could say I want to group it by store number. Now, it would be dumb to group it by store number in this particular report, and that's because store is the lowest level of detail. Like there's nothing beneath it. But let's group it. Let's group it by store number, and let's see what happens. Right? It basically inserts a subtotal line. I didn't put any sums in them, but it would be summing them if I ask it to. But it's one store subtotal, second store subtotal, third store subtotal, right? Which, because the level of detail is so high here in this case, that's a dumb grouping. So I would take that out. And another thing too, so I can get it. Okay, that works for me. Okay, so um, notice the order. The order is not the order I would like the stores in. I would like to start with store 0, go to store 1, 2, 3, 4 sequentially. So I could sort that, right, and put them in order. Sometimes this presents this way and exports badly, and sometimes it doesn't present right, like this one, and I have to sort it. If I need to sort by more than one column, hold down the Control and Shift key and go ahead and click on the rest of the criteria you want to sort by. So I've got 3 little blue arrows here. And if you force a sort like that and then export, it will respect the order. Okay, just saying, that's a very powerful thing, is holding down the Control and the Shift key and adding sort levels to it. But in I'm in build mode, so that is kind of irrelevant here. We're not actually, we can't export from here. Here we would then name this and save it, right? That's what we would do if we were continuing down to build a report. But I wanted to show you some functionality about how the reports work a little bit, right? And like I said, we do this a lot. Now, so if you need a report, I would reach out to us and we could probably get it going for you. And you have a question there? I'm a little slow on the uptake apparently. So just to confirm, simple mode is good enough to create any report we might need that isn't already available. Yeah. What it would not be good for, excellent question. Thank you. What it would not be good for would be something like, see here. Never have what you want when you want it. All right, so let me just grab one real quick. Again, I think that I tried to build a department summary in simple mode, and what I got is the department code for every item. So it was returning items, but only returning the department code for the item because that seems to be where the simple mode is going. But yes, I have a client back in like Midwest, and she is actually brilliant, and she's went crazy with that, and she built um, almost 100 reports, and she was going crazy with it. She was reporting on all kinds of stuff, and it worked great for her. And yes, simple mode is pretty slick. I like simple mode a lot. I'm not going to lie. That's really a great tool. Now this report here um, is not grouped at the item level. But yeah, I mean, for basic reporting, like if I wanted to go see all the items that are on order or all the items that are, on hand and sold, and I want an item level report, right? Then yes, I'm going to say simple mode could do that. Yes, it could. Now here, what I'm doing is I'm looking at departments, master departments, right? And I'm looking at the penetration of that department and the penetration of the DCS, and their DCS structure is wacky, but so that everybody's 100% in this level here. So this would be looking at like men's department, like up here, and the penetration of the men's department to the total. You follow? And then this layer over here would be men's tops tees, men's tops wovens, men's tops polos, and the penetration of that to men's and that to the total. So this is the penetration to the department, and this would be the penetration to the total. So this kind of report, no, you couldn't do this in simple mode. But I would say most of the reporting we do is pretty basic item level reporting. I need to see things about items. So yeah, I'm going to say that simple mode is excellent, and you should definitely play with it and build some reports. And yeah, big fan of it. I don't use it much because mostly what I do is more advanced. But now that being said, you could take a report I wrote or one of the Retail Pro wrote, right? You could select all. Now, click into the box before you select all. There we go. Copy it and go up to ChatGPT or go up to Claude AI. Very good, by the way. We have an account with them, and drop it in there and ask them, can you modify this query to do this task? Here's what I want. Be very specific. Remember that AI is literally like a 1-year-old or a 2-year-old. They're very brilliant, but they don't have the context to interpret things very well. So you got to be very specific. But then a good query like this that has all the joins and has all the tables and all the field names in it, that gives the AI all it needs. And you can go do crazy things out there with that, right? So, yeah, I would say. Now, how do I if I want to go copy one of these things and I want to give that query to an AI, for instance, let's just see here. Okay. And say I want to copy that transfer item summary. There is no edit up here, is there? So to get to that query, I have to be the owner. I am not the owner. System is the owner. So I have two options. I could duplicate it and make my own copy. Then I would be the owner, right? Then I could open it up and copy the query out. Yes, I could. And maybe not a bad move, by the way. But we need to go over to the other side, the dark side, shall we say, anyway, right? So let's hop over to the other side. So I'm going to sign out of report mode, and I'm going to sign into the back end. And here's all of our sort of preferences, right? Which we're going to take a look at these real quick too. In at the very bottom here in maintenance, I could take that report or any report, and I could change the owner. I could take possession of that report. I'm not sure I agree with that. The system reports, when they come in, are pretty good. And if you want to copy them again in the future, if you take possession and hack it up, then you don't have the original any longer, right? So I'm probably leaning towards copying. Now, out here, there are a few things to know, right? Here, the very top is where we create users. So I could click new and I could make a new user here. I would have to put the name in that I want to show up. Like report user, that's what's going to show up where it says system, or it's going to show up. I could say that I want the name on the report to be Jeff, but then the login has to be in email format. The back end does not, the front end does. It's got to be some kind of, it doesn't have to be a real email. It could just be Jeff at whatever.com. Now, there's an odd bug in here that I reported that they have not fixed. And that is that if you use a capital letter in this, it will mess with you. It will take buttons out of the, you won't get the edit button in report mode if you sign in with any capital letters. So don't put capital letters in your login. Just follow the whole email culture and do all lowercase, right? And then put your password in and click save. Now, you can have one user for as many licenses you have, right? So I could have home office at bighairydog.com. I could have stores at, if I have 5 licenses, I'd get to name 5 users that can be in there, and that's it. Each one gets a license. Now you get one free license for as many stores as you have, or buckets, inventory, installations of Oracle, basically, or inventories. They're not terribly expensive. They're not, the licensing for each Crunch license is not measured in thousands. It's measured in hundreds. I'm not a salesperson, so I don't quote prices, but they're actually pretty reasonable. So once you have that, you could create roles. Like I could create an admin role, and then down here under access control, I can, if I wanted to, I could block a user from having certain rights. I could also block them from getting to a report. If I wanted to have a report that was my report, you can't touch, I could do that. Absolutely. Um, you know, advanced mode fields, I could block them from certain fields. I don't think anybody's using that. Tables, I could block them from getting to tables. Same thing, though. I don't think anybody's using advanced mode. Um, nice. Um, yeah, there's a whole field value renaming thing down here under field maps. Um, now the database, this should be done as soon as you install it. The first thing we do with Crunch is we tell it what the server's name is, and then we click save, and it should say successful. And you really can't do anything until you do that. There's no point in putting a user in until you're connected to the database. Um, you can load images. You have to give it the image location. There's some documentation on that we can provide. I played with it. It works. Uh, this is brand new. They just put this in. You can connect this up to a FTP site, and then you can, when you set the email config up, you can say send it to this FTP site. So, like locally.com is a company that refers people to other retailers when a given retailer is out of stock on something, right? So if they're shopping for a certain pair of tennis shoes, you have it. They were shopping somebody else's site, but you upload your data every morning to locally.com, the UPC and the quantity on hand end. So boom, you know, they get referred to you. And this would be how you do that. You'd build a report that has exactly what they need to import, export it in CSV probably, and have it go right to the FTP site. Here's your email config. SMTP is the common way, you know, smtp.gmail.com at 587 with the login information. Gmail, you have to use two-step verification in an app password, or the OAuth is brand new, right? So the OAuth is another option now that we can use. Field mapping, I have not used a great deal, but you can rename fields in here. I just don't really know why you would. This, though, is very, very powerful and very useful. So in here, this allows us to do the indexing. So if I want to have a drop-down menu for my department codes, I find my department code, I open it up here, and the gear, if you see a gear, click it, right? And then I click off what I want indexed. What do I want to be in the drop-down menu? So when I search for a department name, do I want to be able to pull the names from the database and just pick one I want, right? So certainly DCS code needs to be checked off. That's the most important one right there. But probably, yeah, department name and class name and subclass name. I don't really know about active. I doubt seriously I'm ever going to actually want a drop-down menu for those. I mean, there are 1 or a 0, right? I mean, and then that adds them. Now, if I add a bunch of departments, I have to come back out here and re-index it, or they're not in the index, right? So the 3 things that are useful for sure in indexing is departments, vendors, and stores. And earlier I used the store one. I picked store 1 because it was already indexed, right? So that's excellent. I love this feature. I just struggle with finding, like, I'm never going to index sizes. You know, that's wacky. There's too many. I'm never going to index colors. You know, there's a few things that it's very, very useful for. There's maintenance here. We looked at this a minute ago to change the name, but you can do a lot more here. Like I could pick one of these things and export this out. So if I wanted that report backed up or saved, I could export it like that, and it would come up and tell me that I have a KRR file. And that KRR file has everything about that report. So now the name is not great on the KRR file. So I would put it in a folder that's named for that report. You know what I mean? Then you could import that back in if you ever needed to bring that back in, or move it to another location and import it there. Pretty easy to do. You could also, and this is maybe better, is select all and back up all your reports. Or you could, if somebody sent you a KRR file, you could just say import, make myself the owner, and then find the KRR file and click OK and bring it in, right? Now, be careful. It takes everything in your filters. So if you have a really trashy filter menu and you export that, it's going to take all that to the other installation. All right, so updates. This is how and I have an update. Woo, did not see that one coming. Um, so normally we just click like that and then click the download button, and it would download. And then you'd have to restart the service. So I probably shouldn't just state that. Uh, if you type in the word services, right, you go into the Windows services, right, and of course Apache is Prism's primary web service, right. Crunch has a similar one, Crunch 15 Apache. And if you went down to Apache and right clicked and said open Apache monitor, you'd see both of them running there. And you could click here and you could restart Apache from here. So you could restart it here, or you could go into services and restart it here, right? Either one would restart it. So in the update area, you would select it, download it, log out, restart your Crunch, go back in. It's pretty fast. It's not too painful. Um, I'm glad to see that they're actually starting to do that again. They paused them. They did them up through 12, and then 13, 14, 15. They weren't really doing updates this way. Now they're starting to do it again. It's really handy to be able to do your own updates and not have to pay a technician for it, right? So, um, I think that's pretty much all I have on my hit parade of exciting crunch topics. Um, any last questions? Anybody have anything that they want to throw out? All right. Well, I'm going to say thank you for sitting through an hour of crunch reports. Appreciate it. And this is being recorded and will be posted to our website and up to our YouTube channel. And have a good rest of your day. And we'll talk again on the next webinar, I guess. Thanks. See you.